The first thing I want to talk about today is what we're doing to support Indigenous people during the pandemic. Since day one, our government has been engaging with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis Nation leaders in the fight against this virus. We've been listening to people's concerns and working with local leadership to ensure that communities are getting the right support. And so far, we've taken a number of important steps. We're investing in emergency shelters to help Indigenous women and children fleeing violence. We're offering interest-free loans and non-repayable contributions to help Indigenous businesses weather this storm. We're helping First Nations, Inuit, and Métis Nation students and recent grads find a job this summer. And last week, we announced more funding to support the most urgent needs of Indigenous communities dealing with the COVID-19 outbreak. While all communities have had to wrestle with COVID-19 these past few months, the everyday realities of this crisis are different for everyone. To mount an effective response to this crisis, we must adapt our approach and our programs to recognize and meet the particular needs of all Indigenous peoples, including those living in urban areas and off-reserve. To this end, we announced $15 million back in March to support Indigenous organizations that deliver services to these populations as part of the Indigenous Community Support Fund we had set up to help prevent and mitigate the impact of this virus. With this money, organizations have been able to give meals, groceries, clothing, and supplies to those in need and offer mental health counseling. They've also provided personal protective equipment and cleaning supplies for supportive housing and computer and laptops so kids can keep up with their schoolwork. This funding is helping vulnerable people like youth, women, and elders. Indigenous community organizations in our cities and off-reserve do crucial work year-round, but these days their services are in high demand because of the pandemic. We need to make sure they have the resources to adapt and grow their services so they can fulfill their important mission. So today, our government is announcing an additional $75 million in new funding for organizations that address the critical needs of the over 1 million Indigenous people living in urban centers and off-reserve. This is critical work. If you live off-reserve or in a city, we're working to make sure you don't fall through the cracks. You need and deserve services that are culturally appropriate, and that's what we're doing with today's investment.